Right, hey folks, good morning. We're going to do some more Eberron artwork for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2.4 for the adventure Crystals of Mabar. That's going to be publishing on the DMsGuild as soon as we finish. So give me a second here to check my signal, make sure we're coming through clear, set my volumes properly so it doesn't blow out your ears. And then I'm going to do some quick social postings, and then we'll get to work. So mic check. It sounds like it's coming through okay, so I'm going to drop that volume down as much as I can. Get that noise out of the way, and then I've got 3 or 4 social media posts that I'm supposed to do here, and then we'll be up and running. So for those that don't know, my name is Phil Kearney. What's up? I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, I publish online, and I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition on DMsGuild since 2018. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. And I've been an Eberron enthusiast as a DM since 2004, I want to say. And I've been a DM in general since 1987. So I've been around the block a few times. Eberron is by far my favorite campaign world to build with. So, yeah, I make art. I come up with a book idea. We play test it. We do the page design. We do the layouts. We do all the technical work. Playtesting is so important. Get that all done, and then we hire an editor to punch through the text to make it sound good. We do the page layouts, and then all the artwork here, and then we publish it. So you get to watch the entire, like we say, from ideation to completion. We're going through the ideation process right now for the Bastions campaign on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight. We are going through the playtesting for the Martial Power System that I stream occasionally on Tuesdays and Friday lunchtimes. And this Eberron adventure, Crystals of Mabar, has gone through editing and is now, I'm finishing the page layouts off screen in the evening, and I'm down to just a few pages. And then we've been doing artwork here in the morning, Monday through Friday. So if you think this stuff is cool, you want to see that PDF production process, like I said, from beginning to end, that's what we do here. I stream this stuff because I stream it because creation is a lonely process, and this is a way for me to at least be able to share my thoughts with some people while I'm in that production mode. So if you think today is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Hey, new subscribers, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate people if they take an interest in what we're doing here. So thanks. Here's the entire playlist of all 437 episodes, my Discord community where we do our playtesting and muse the future. Here's a bunch of books that I've either created or, in the case of the Subclasses Revivified, participated in the production of. If I made the book myself, it's 100% free preview. Check that stuff out. It'll give you an idea of where we're going with this. So that's probably enough ado. I'll get this book cover out of the way. We made this back around episode 47 in the Wayback Machine. Get that out of the way. Today we are making, we're starting to do color detail work on the artifacts that we have. So we've talked about these artifacts a number of episodes. Today we're working on the Trumpet of Thalanus. And no, we did that one. We're going to work on the Flute of Sarania, and we're going to work on the Banner of Shavareth. Shavareth, the battleground, it has a war banner, and the Flute of Sarania, the azure sky. It's just a wind instrument, but it's like an ocarine. It's in the shape of the symbol for Sarania. So that is the symbol for Shavareth. This is the symbol for Sarania. That doesn't, symbol shapes don't show up that often. Nope, those are the only two that actually have the shape of the symbols on. Oh wait, the Eye of Zoriat, the pupils in this eye thing. We're gonna clean up all these little bits, all this jaggedy stuff when we get back through. This is just the first pass. So we do the line art, and then we do a color layer, like a flat color layer underneath it, like comic book art. And then we go underneath the line art again. We do the form. Like you can see where the highlights and the shadows are at for this becoming a 3-dimensional object and showing the direction of light, which we did here. And did we finish? No, we didn't finish this one. Let's get after it. So this is actually where we left off. So this is where I need to continue. Let's grab this. Martial Powers on Saturday was really fun. We're 5th level now. they're able to take on threats. The XP amount that your team, like the challenge rating, XP for monsters in Dungeons and Dragons, it literally doubles from level 4 to 5. So it's because at 5th level you get your second attack and 3rd level spells, which are some of the most powerful scaling in the game. So there's a substantial power jump when you get to 5th level, and you know this is true because the team has doubled the amount of experience per challenge rating that a character needs to for like a deadly encounter is 1,100 experience points per character, and at 4th level it's only 500. So you jump from a 2,000 experience point cumulative threat to a 4,400 point cumulative threat. That is a substantial upgrade in power and threat. So the design team is readily recognizing how much of a jump 5th level is, and then your next significant jump is actually it's 11th level, and then your last major jump is at 17. But it's not much of a jump for anyone. 11 is a little bit of a jump for fighters. And level 17 is a jump for full casters, but not for marshals. So that's a concern that is present in a lot of the system for people that are into game design work, like balancing factors and stuff. And not a lot of people have an opportunity to run at 17th plus to have an opportunity to test how rough the mechanics can get at those higher levels for DMs to run a smooth game, and for players to have efficient actions, because you have so many options and so much action economy available to your characters that it becomes unruly. Or does it? Because your character, unless you are a fighter, your action economy, and a monks and fighters, your action economy really doesn't change after 11th level. You have 1 attack per attack action at 1st level. You have 2 attacks per attack action at 5th level. The fighter and the monk. The monk has the flurry of blows as a bonus action, 2 attacks for 1 point of mana, but at 11th level it becomes 3 attacks for 1 point of mana. But the fighter gets 3 attacks per attack action all the time at 11th level, but none of the other martial casters do. So that's actually a very limited resource. The Paladin, Artificer, Ranger, Barbarian, all of them are still sitting at 2 attacks per attack action and no additional bonus stuff going on for them. So their action economy actually freezes at 5th level and never gains again. It's just statistical gains, and then in the case of the Ranger, Paladin, and Artificer, spell level gain. So there actually is a pretty wide disparage between marshals and spellcasters that really should be considered and looked at, because the amount of, like, the game is going to assume that, like, you have 6 lightning javelins, right? that do, I think, like, is it 46 or potentially 66 lightning damage once per day as an attack? That's a 6th level lightning bolt. No, that's a 3rd level lightning bolt that your characters are throwing as a magic item. So I mean, it's you throw the thing and it turns into a lightning bolt. Like, there's stuff like that they kind of assume that martial characters are going to have as a weapon supply for them to swap their normal attack for these daily magical weapon attacks. And if your campaign doesn't include, like, each character, like, you're supposed to have, like, each character is supposed to have, like, up to 20 magic items over the course of their career. So if your fighter doesn't have, like, 10 objects that they can use once per day as spell power, scaling from 3rd to, say, 7th level, from level 9 to 20, they're operating underneath what the DM team, the designers, kind of assume they're going to have available to them. So on paper, the martial divide looks significant, because statistically the spellcasters have all this stuff that's built into them, this variety of options built in that that martial characters don't get. Half-casters at least get a variety of spells to select over time, but it's not just something that's constantly available to them to select from on a daily basis like druids, wizards, and clerics can. So there is a concern if you aren't handing out magic items the way that the system assumes that you're going to hand out magic items, martial characters will be weak. And then it's an issue of, you know, why are the marshals getting all the toys? It's because casters get all their toys right away with their spell list. So they don't need as much magic items. The magic items are supposed to be for the marshals. Which is how first and second edition in Beckme ran. The only way you'd really distinguish one fighter from another is by the magic gear that they had on them. So I'm not a big magic item fan, though. I mean, I hand out a lot in the playtest that we're running because I'm trying to run it, you know, like by the book, Beckme style by the book. As we're doing loot equals experience points, which is a fun way to playtest. If you want to have a campaign environment where you're playtesting mechanics, make it a mega dungeon where they only get experience points for the loot that they pull out. So they have to decide, is this magic item worth keeping or should we sell it for the XP? And then you can find different ways to decorate your dungeon with, you know, art or precious stone or whatever. Like currently, we started at 3rd level. We're 5th level now, and we're pushing our way through a temple that was revealed during an earthquake. So access to the temple is opened up, and the team is now exploring the temple. And there's all these different statues and stuff with precious stones on them, and sometimes they're guardian creatures. A lot of times they're just statues with precious stones. So they take the time to pick out the eyes of like these snake statues to get the black pearls that are worth 50 gold each. So a gold coin is basically worth 10 times the amount of a platinum piece because gems have the same weight as a gold piece in D&D. It's 50 gems per pound, just like it's 50 gold pieces per pound or 50 pieces of currency per pound. So if you have a bunch of statues, when they explore a room and they take the time to loot it, they get, you know, anywhere from 2 to 20 black pearl on statues. And sometimes those statues come to life and try to attack them and they deal with it. But there's a lot of loot there for them to gank. So that's how I can prevent, like, for example, in this temple, from having piles and piles of gold just laying around. They have to scoop up with a shovel and then carry off to town to get their experience points, where there's other ways for us to be able to provide stowable objects that can be converted to XP. Weight hasn't been an issue yet. If I wanted to, I could include a bunch of like statues and different types of art objects that weigh, you know, 30 or 20 or 30 pounds a piece. So it's like you can only haul away so much of this treasure at a time, which we might get into at higher levels. So I can have like 6,000 or 7,000 gold piece statues laying around, but you can only carry off like 2 of them at a time. That might be a path that we go, but generally it's been when you get enough experience points to gain a level, you go back to town to sell the loot and then come back, which gives the dungeon an opportunity to evolve in their absence. And it doesn't always evolve. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So they just hit 5th level. The dungeon didn't evolve or respond to them, but that's not to say that things might not happen in the future that when they come back, the environment or the creatures in the environments could change. Because this got exposed by earthquakes, and we set up the narrative that while they've been there, there's been a few additional cave-ins that have happened. So they know that the area isn't stable, so that when they leave, we have the meta built into the game that when they come back, there could have been additional cave-ins that may have closed off or even opened up new sections of the dungeons that they haven't explored. Like they've explored in the past, but it got shut down, so now they need a new path to get to the same area that they'd been before, or new areas open up that had previously been blocked off. So now that becomes a factor for wandering monsters and stuff that may have filled in the space since their absence. And you can either run it as like a downtime risk random table, where like there's a 1 in 4 chance a cave-in will happen, and that will expose or restrict access to previous, to other regions. Like that could be your table, or you can have things timed. As like, I know that, like, for example, they're 5th level now. Maybe at 7th level, when they go back to town and they come back to the dungeon, like there's an area right up front in the dungeon that's been closed off as a result of a cave-in, and they don't specifically know where that is or where it leads to. But like, say around 8th level, I could another cave-in could open up that space. So now the front door of the dungeon isn't 3rd level, it's now 8th level. And maybe the door changed because of the shifting cave-in, exposed a new area and took away a previous area. So what used to be the front door is no longer the front door. Like they might see that like around 8th or 9th level. But we're running the dungeon until 10th level, and the dungeon goes down. So at the bottom of the dungeon, that's where they're going to find, all the horrible things. So, but we'll see. They found a magical device back in. They're currently conquering the 4th zone, zone number 5, because we break them up into 500-foot areas as a zone, and each zone is its own separate dungeon. And whenever you secure a zone, you can start using that. You can start long resting there safely. And once that zone is cleared, if there was any secret doors or anything that they missed, they, depending on how long, depending on how fast they're going through the dungeon, reveals those spaces to them. So because they're taking long rests, crashing for the day and camping and stuff in a particular area of the dungeon, they're eventually going to find, is there any secret doors in that area? So them camping out in different areas is to their benefit. But if they keep pushing down through the dungeon, things that they want to explore closer to the surface are going to become less and less easy for them to get to. Anyway, ramble. We'll have to. We're painting over these leaves, but we'll get to those in a bit. So yeah, one of the problems that people can face with dungeons is that they're boring. So you have to have a story built into the environment. Like, why is this dungeon here, and how and what is its purpose? How does that shape the traps, tricks, puzzles, and creatures that you're going to encounter while exploring it? And then beyond that, it's is the dungeon dynamic or not? Like, is there anything that's changing about it? Like the earthquake, for instance, the cave-ins, and making that the reason that the dungeon is available and why it needs to be explored in the first place is because it's brand new, and it's been buried for thousands of years. So the entrance is new. We don't know about this. It's an unknown variable threat that could, cause menace in the nearby community. That shit needs to get locked down, and that's what dungeon delvers and adventurers do. They go lock shit down. But since we established the earthquake, again, we can change the environment, adding, like, if we have built into the dungeon cave-in points, as the campaign proceeds, those cave-ins can shift and they can expose new areas. So you can make what was old new again, and what was new could become inaccessible for a while or get access to in a different way. We have Umber Hulks running around in the dungeon, and Umber Hulks dig tunnels. So that they're like purple worms and Umber Hulks are the absolute best way to be able to justify, explain, and demonstrate how dungeon environments can change, because they destroy walls and they cause cave-ins. There you go. That's a ramble. That's the stuff that I think about. But I've been like I said, I've been a DM since 1987. This is the type of stuff that I just naturally think about. So when I throw a dungeon together, I'm thinking about these dynamics. How long are they going to be there? How much change and variety is going to be necessary? How can we narratively scale the monsters, because like there's a like I said, the amount of experience points per encounter doubles between 4th and 5th levels. So when they transition from 4th level into 5th level, everything is literally going to double in danger. What narrative do you have in your dungeon that justifies that shift in gear? And so that's where the characters are messing around right now, and they're going to find out. They're going to find out like how this thing is transitioning from one like gear in the adventure to another, because 5th level is definitely shifting a gear. So the dungeon should shift gear with them so that it stays narratively on point with where their characters are gaining power. But at this point, I think I'm just kind of looping statements. So I'll let that go. I'll let that go there. And I'm liking this. I'm liking how this is coming along. But that's what we get to do here. We draw, and then my brain gets to ramble on about whatever stuff is in my head for the day. And I kind of just talk about it while I paint. Painting is, I've put in 15,000 some odd hours in doing painting. Probably 10,000 of those has been in Photoshop specifically. So I can draw, I can paint like this and not have to think about what not have to think about what I'm doing at all while I'm doing it. So I can ramble like this and just talk out of pocket for a couple hours. So, yeah, if you think this kind of stuff is cool, like and subscribe. I'm here. I do artwork like this Monday through Friday in the morning. Right now, it's for the Eberron book. Before the Eberron book, if you were here with us, it was the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book. I built all the artwork for the Spelljammer stuff and all the maps. And all that stuff I built here on stream. And that was like 300 some odd episodes to build that book out. And this is a bigger book, so it's taking more episodes to do it. It's also a lot more map intensive than what the Spelljammer book was, because the Spelljammer book was a mechanics book with a few, like a 20-page example of how to use Spelljammer, my combat and exploration rules, like in Light as Araxis. So I provided a 20-page conversion guide for Light as Araxis to use all the mechanics that we built. That was part of the book. To demonstrate these mechanics actually work, here's what we did in playtesting. Man, coffee's good. But that was only 20 pages. This is like 100. So it's so much more intense than what the Spelljammer conversion guide was. But I did the Spelljammer book. I actually paused this book for an entire year while we built that Spelljammer book. And God bless Stuart and Andy for being so patient with me during that process. But I never created, like physically manufactured any kind of adventuring content. And building the Light as Araxis conversion guide with the Spelljammer book actually taught me the skills that I needed to now be able to create this book. And it was a huge detour, but it was a skill set I didn't realize that I needed to acquire until I started to approach the challenge of it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to level up on this. So the Spelljammer book provided me the opportunity to level up like that, to make sure I'd be able to produce this now. And this is my first adventure the conversion guide doesn't really count. This is my first from scratch adventure that Andy and I created using the random Eberron adventure creator that I had made a number, like back in, like 19, no, it's 20. I want to say that I created that back in 2019. I've yet to publish it, but basically nowadays it's kind of funny because of AI, but it's basically a D100 list of different type of plots and villains and locations that you could create random adventure seeds for Eberron with. And I mean, you could very easily feed it into an AI now and just have it spit out adventure seed ideas off of this. But in 2019, before AI existed, and I have videos here back from 2019 of me messing around with this generator. So it's like no joke. But if I had prioritized that book over the color mana system stuff that I did for MTG and Spelljammer and all that other stuff, it would have been ahead of the time, but potentially made, it'd be a really useful tool for people that like doing AI stuff. But it really was intended as an analog random generator. That's the thing. Before role-playing games existed, before personal computers existed, so all of the random tables and all the like the DM generator stuff, that's the DM was basically being treated as a random number generator with a bunch of tables that nowadays would all be like Path of Exile 2 or whatever, or like Epoch, or Diablo would have as like these monster generators, loot generators, dungeon environment. They're all progressively generated or like instance, like maps and stuff. Like in Diablo and Path of Exile, you have like this mapping system where you have a random map with random monsters and random hazards in a random environment with random rooms arranged in this random way. That used to all that random generator stuff used to be what the DM would do, and to most of the extent still does. As a DM, like that's the job of the DM, is to run those calculations, to be that random number generator, to create these dungeon environments with creatures and stuff to run through. But while we as a DM are doing the random generation of this, we're also at the same time thinking, why is that? The AI computers currently, they can RNG like hell now, right? They can generate entire videos on demand. So they've mastered the RNG mechanics, the math and the calculating of this dungeon creation process, but they don't ask why. And the act of physically, hey, what's going on, Steve? The act of physically analog rolling the dice, looking at the random answers, inserting them into your dungeon. This room is like this. This room has this dressing. This room has this monster and has this treasure, and say this puzzle or trap. These things get randomly generated off of your table, and you are inserting them into the game on your pad of paper or your virtual tabletop or however you're playing. And it's a slow physical process that your body is performing that a computer could do quickly. But here's the thing that we don't think about. While I'm taking the time to write out 3 goblins and say 200 gold pieces of treasure, 10 by 30 room with like crates. Like these are all random, and like the room is like this, and there's a door this way, and this way, and I don't know what's over here yet, but like this is the kitchen here already. We established as a kitchen. So like so this is the room that we're designing for right now. What is that? It does, while I'm going through the math of like rolling like my D8 to figure out the size of the room, and my D20 for like what's in that room, and like my D10 table of what kind of creatures are in it, and then my random loot table here for what kind of treasures in there. While I'm going through the physical process of grabbing and rolling my dice, look, I got a 3. It's goblins. While I'm going through that process of doing that, this analog action, this activity of rolling dice is so much slower than our brain can operate at. It processes this information so quickly that it leaves all this open bandwidth that we're not doing anything with while we're just cut, paste, roll, die, cut, paste, roll, die. That's where you have to occupy your brain, and that creative process is each of these prompts that we're kicking out triggers a why, an explanation, and that's what the act of DMing is in this the prep work of DMing, is to have all these things get generated and then asking yourself why while you're generating them. So like the mega dungeon that I'm running, the team is currently in the 5th zone, their 5th level right now. It's basically 2 or 3 zones, and each zone is a 500-foot space with different rooms, monsters, treasures, traps, blah. Every zone is about 2 or 3 zones for the characters to get a level. So by the time they get to level 6, for instance, they're in 5th zone now, 6th. They'll probably be exploring the 7th zone. and that's when they'll hit level 6. So I'm currently working on zone number 8. So I have all the zones up till level 8 pretty much figured out. And so every week I DM and they push into it. It takes maybe like 2 or 3 sessions to conquer a zone. So that means I've basically got 2 months or so before I need to figure out what's going on with 8 and 9. They'll be 6th level when they get to zone 7, 8, and 9. They'll now be 7th level when they conquer those areas, and we're going till 10th level. So I'm staying ahead of the team's progress, and that allows me to adapt the story of the mega dungeon that they're running through. It can continue to evolve with me as a DM. What am I finding that the team is enjoying? What are they asking specifically more of? What have they been the most positive towards? When are they saying this was a great session versus this was a good session? You know, like what's really jumping out at them as this was super fun. I want more of this. That allows me to adapt and change the dungeon. And while I'm going through that process, I'm still thinking about what's the whys behind this room's arrangement. What's the why behind these creatures being here? And every week that I come back and visit and add more dungeon, it makes me go back to previous zones that they haven't gotten to yet, but I've developed to be able to rework those, like to massage the space, the creatures, the events in that area, to have a more cohesive story with what's already came and where they're heading to and what I'm finding that they're enjoying. So it's that process of adapting the world, and in this case the dungeon, to meet on the meta level what I am observing as the narrator. What am I observing that the team is enjoying? What's going to keep them coming back? What's going to motivate them to wake up on a Saturday morning to show up and throw some dice with me for a few hours? Yeah, thanks, Steve. Wondering DMs have been doing some fun videos with AI. Yeah, right on. Yeah, but that's the process, you know. So the AI helps expedite the creation of these things, the random generation. But again, the point I'm making is that it's too fast. It doesn't give you time to savor the results of the dice. They're all just thrown at you all fast food style. Here's a giant block of information. And my argument here, I guess if I had a moral to this story, it's give yourself the time to actually do the prep, because the prep is the creative process. It's lonely, and a lot of people will often feel like this, I don't have the time for this. Well, then maybe you should really consider the style of DMing that you're trying to work with, and it could be that you'd like to be a DM, but you just simply don't have the bandwidth and the time needed to put in the extra 4 or 5 hours a week to make sure that you have all the prep taken care of for the. Generally, I find if you're doing maps and visual stuff like intensive dungeon delving like this, it's 2 hours of prep for every hour of play. If you're using theater of the mind and loosey-goosey dungeons, and it's not like a formal crawl where there's maps happening and stuff like that, if it's like town adventuring and stuff like that, most people are probably going to be comfortable with 1 hour prep per game session. At the point where I'm at, if it's theater of the mind, if it's theater of the mind, and it's not a dungeon delve specifically, I can typically 10 minutes of prep per hour is about all I need, and I can create enough points of interest, character interactions, puzzles, and mysteries to keep characters occupied. 10 minutes of contemplation equals easily an hour of actual adventure time. So the amount of content I can create can far outpace the team. Like if they ever catch me out, I can say, hey, I just need a 10-minute break. I need to take a bio break. And while I'm on the toilet, I can contemplate where are we taking this next. And typically by the time I've flushed, I've got another hour or so of content ready to go. I just don't have any maps for it. So when I'm playing when I'm playing a normal campaign, just typical D&D adventuring stuff with my home team, it's all theater of the mind. There's very rarely maps at all. It's so that I don't have to tilt my hand like, what did I prepare for 5 hours over the weekend, and what am I improvising right now? If it's all theater of the mind or like stick figures and like square box leads to the next dungeon room, and there's a tunnel that goes this way, and it splits like this. Like, that's as much detail as I need. I don't have to prepare that ahead of time. I'm just throwing shit on a board for people to have a reference for. So it's the amount of prep that you have to do is largely based on the format that you're using. The mega dungeon that we're running for playtesting, that's a very specific style that I wanted to test because it's very old school D&D, and the playtesting that we're doing right now is the Martial Powers playtesting that we're doing is tactical. It is tactical options for martial characters to run around dungeons and beat things up. So it needs to be a more formalized actual dungeon where characters are running around and being tactical. So you have to synchronize the purpose of the content to match with the mechanics and the narrative. It all curves into each other, and if everything is complementary, it's a good game and it's fun to play. If things are cacophonous and don't align with each other, and you're like, why is this happening this way? I don't get it. Then you're going to lose your team, and ultimately you're going to lose the entire campaign. Because if it doesn't make sense, no one shows up. So just simple cause-effect logic outcomes, like what's the next natural conclusion that's going to get pulled from this? That's the DM's job, is to create these logic bridges that take you from one portion of the adventure to the next, one challenge to the next. Why do we need to overcome this puzzle? Who would put a puzzle here in the first place? That kind of shit. And you know what? I feel like that's pretty good. I'm gonna grab this. I think the same color over here. I think I'm gonna do that for these caps. That'll help tie it all together a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll do the leaves last. So let's grab our reference here. Yeah, this is where we're at. So I want to grab this is some good shadow, and we already have let's just go with this shadow here. So we're gonna dump this in here. Like that. There we go. I just let me express again my deep appreciation that I'm capable of doing this, that I'm living in a time that allows me to share ideas with people online while I'm painting shit, and that people have the opportunity to tap into it and you know, decide if they think it's fun or not, or whatever. Just I can, what is, until now, visual arts is a very lonely task. Sculpting, painting, yarn, you know, like sewing or whatever. These are all manual labor tasks which are contemplative by nature. The very act of it is generally an isolationist activity. And it wasn't until streaming like this that like I would literally spend all day all alone painting or writing and have no one to interact with. It was incredibly lonely. And it wasn't until streaming services like this, like being able to live stream, did that loneliness get lifted from artists. We can, like, the largest thing that shuts people, one of the most significant things that'll shut someone down from continuing with art is they can't deal with the loneliness. The drive, like the demand inside of yourself to produce another piece, that drive might not be stronger than your drive for a human connection. It's only unbalanced people that are like, yeah, I can forgo human I can forgo human interaction and interacting, you know, being part of society to produce this thing, whether somebody likes it or not. That's where a lot of, I think, trauma comes to artists, that like they've given up their life, they've given up the opportunity to interact with their community, to connect with their family, for this art that they're doing. And when no one likes their art, no one cares about their art, it's like, why am I even here anymore? And that's when you start seeing a lot of depressions show up, I think. And I think to have that level of being willing to endure that level of loneliness for the craft, I think that's already indicative of somebody that's been so wounded that they're retreating into themselves and they're finding that solace in the art that they do. God, that looks really good. But streaming allows me to yammer like this and occasionally, you know, have feedback from folks and interact and stuff. That's not a cue for anybody in particular. I'm just saying, in general, if a community grows, then it's a parasocial relationship, but it's not isolation. It's not complete loneliness. And so I think it helps generate the endurance needed to be able to, you know, push pixels for 1,000 hours to get something done, because I'm not completely alone, right? But at the same time, when I was alone, I was like really up on my music, man. Like I was buying all the Zeppelin and Rush and Who albums and getting really into Pink Floyd. And you just listen to this music while you're arting instead of talking to somebody. So it was a real opportunity to be receptive. And I don't know the long-term impacts of switching gears away from listening into talking all the time. But I certainly feel more engaged, but I feel less self-aware. So there's a definite trade-off. So which is why I'm excited about finishing the page layouts in the evening, so that I can have that quiet time to myself, to be able to reconnect to that sense of isolation that helps me become self-contemplative. That's when I think my best evolution, my own personal evolution, really spikes the most. So I like this hybrid of me streaming in the morning and be able to talk to folks and to be social, and to be able to have artwork that I'm doing at night off stage, so I can have that quiet time. And currently it's being filled with page layouts, and page layouts is for me, it's a thought-intensive task. I can't just do page layouts and not think while I'm doing it, because I'm constantly reading the sentences and making sure they fit in the space right. And it's a lot more task-intensive activity. It requires more mental energy than artwork does, because with artwork, it's just the pixels get pushed and I get to watch where they go with you guys do. But that's because I've put in 15,000 hours of painting, and I've only put in maybe 2,000 hours of page layouts. So considerable difference in skill set acquired there. Maybe I'll get to a point where I can do page layouts and talk while I do it, and I'll be able to stream that stuff as well, and it won't be boring. But currently I can't sustain a conversation while I'm doing page layouts, because I can't let my consciousness just drift. It's focused on the text of the page. So I'm looking forward to being done with that, and it's very close. I've got one page left in the actual adventure itself. We do have to do the monster stat blocks, convert those to 2024. But I can legitimately take a break from that for a couple weeks and let myself just enjoy doing artwork for a while in the adventure proper. And then once I get to the appendices, we can shift gears again and go back to finishing the page layouts while I'm doing morning art. So I think maybe not today or tomorrow, maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, I should have all of the actual adventure content layouts completed, and I can start doing artwork in the evening and set down page layouts for like a month while I start knocking that stuff out. And then we'll probably in May we'll probably get back around to doing the monsters and the monster stat blocks and stuff. So Anyway, yada yada. Fade that a little bit. Actually, while we're still here, so when we finally finish this adventure, we'll be working on the Bastion campaign book. That's something that's a project, but we'll be getting back into updating the Color Mana Spell Point variant rules for 2025. That's the next thing. That's the next thing we have on plate after this. So here, let me roll up my sleeves. Roll up my sleeves here. We're getting serious. It's 7:30 here. 7:35. I've got about I've got another 20 minutes this morning. I had a late start. That's good. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Let's go grab some leafy green. Actually, that should be like that. And watched the Moana 2 over the weekend on Disney. Guy, that was disappointing. The original Moana is so much better. Moana is a great movie. The first one, excellent movie. Second one, not really. I would recommend skipping it. Personally. But I love the first one so much I wanted to see the second one just to see it. And, you know, cheers. There we go. This is the one. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Let's grab some dark. And then some highlight. We'll do dark first. Again, right now, all we're doing is we're just doing the form lighting to make sure that everything sits proper. We're going to bind the line art to the color art and then do texturing over it. But we're doing all of the artifacts in sequence with each other, so hopefully none of them end up with more detail than the other. If I do it right, everything should be at the same level of quality, should be the same style. That's a real risk that I can have with these long-winded projects, is that my style of art can evolve in the middle of the project. So the stuff at the front end doesn't look the same as the stuff at the end of the project. So I have to be careful about how I'm making things in these long projects to make sure that everything stays aligned. which is a fun challenge, and it's neat to see the evolution happen. Like when I level up, it's always appreciated. But then it's just a matter of, do I have to go back and change anything to make it align with what's already been done? And lately, the answer has been no. Though it has, I have had to in the past. And there we go. That feels pretty good. Yeah, I like that. That feels good. So that's taken care of. That's taken care of for now. Like, again, this is very simple. It's not as complicated as this. This is by far the most complicated piece that we have. But, and we'll see. Like, we might end up doing something like dropping the intensity on it. Probably not. I think I like the full. I think I like the full effect. But this is a 10-inch tall. No, it's a. How big is this? 11 by 17 and a half, I think. Excuse me. Yeah, it's 17 by 10. It's a 17 by 10 document, so it's big. It's chunky. I'm a little concerned about the file size. I've never made a. It's going to be probably 99 pages when it's done. At the 17 by 9 scale, 17 by 10. So it's actually like 10 by 5.5 each column. And so there's like 298 columns throughout the entire adventure. It's insanely big. Considering like an 8.5 by 11 page is pretty standard. Like that would be, that's literally double. It's like, this is like a 200 page document. No, 200 page document, that should be doable. Resolution is only 150 pixels per inch in the PDF documents that we publish, so it should be fine. I've seen 300 page books as PDFs, so this should be fine too. I think we'll be okay. I was a little concerned there for a minute, but I think we're gonna be okay. Where are we at in time? I still got 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So let's. I'm scratching my leg. Give me a second here to be done. There we go. I'm gonna close that up for now. So we've done the crown of Zoriat. We now have the trumpet of, is it Thelania? Thelanis, thank you. I feel like I want to work on the banner of Shavareth. Should be easy. That's a cop-out sort of piece to do. It's quick and it's easy, so that's why I want to do it. So let's grab our reference image here, and we have our color and the color for the stand, and we have our line art including the symbol. Yeah, that should do. So I'm just going to start off simple and keep on working the problem. Actually, I want to use this brush. That's a pushy brush. I need a smudgy brush. I need a smudgy brush. So I'm going to be back on tonight. Around 5:30 Seattle time, I reckon, to continue the Bastion campaign. We've been working through. We've been structuring the Bastion orders and facilities, and I think we're getting to a really, really good space with that. It's been a lot of work. We've put in probably about 90 hours so far into developing those mechanics, but I will snarkily say it's probably more time than Wizards spent on it as a collective. and the depth, the narrative depth, and the flexibility and the mechanics of the system reflect that. Like I wouldn't expect Wizards to have put more than, like, say, maybe 30 or 40 hours into the Bastion system that they have in the DMG. And I don't expect them really to spend more than that. It's a very casual system. Considering what's going on with WotC, I assume it was somewhat phoned in, so I don't expect huge mechanical depth. I don't expect Wizards to impress me with anything. Let's just say that I never expect Wizards to impress me with their mechanical skills. I do expect them to inspire me to create mechanics. And to me, that's what Wizards is really good at, is inspiring me to do better. Such a snarky asshole thing to say. It's such a precocious statement, but it's true. Like the things that they touch on, it's just everything that they touch. To me, it's immediately, they could have done X, Y, and Z if they had, the will, the resources, the budget assigned to it, the time allowed. And it's not like they can't do it. It's like, what are they allowed to do? It's not a matter of can they, it's a matter of are they allowed to blank. I'm sure they wanted a deeper, richer combat system for Spelljammer, but they weren't budgeted the hours of design needed to create it. Like, we spent hundreds of hours on that Spelljammer book. Not just the art, but like actually developing it and playtest, like at least 100 hours playtesting Spelljammer before it was actually a book. So I was like, there was a lot of time invested in making sure those mechanics work. And since WotC wasn't building a deep combat mechanical system for Spelljammer, they didn't have to budget any playtest time to that. It's just, you can just obviously look at it that this was effectively a Reddit homebrew idea that a 16-year-old put out that hasn't actually playtested any of this stuff. It's just an idea. It's a musing, and that's what Wizards publishes, mostly musings. So I'm crapping on Wizards a lot right now, but it's because I love D&D so much that I feel Wizards isn't a great steward of what Dungeons and Dragons is. They bought the IP. Yeah, you own it. Congratulations. But I think I loved 3rd edition. Respected but didn't enjoy 4th edition. And I love the mechanics of where 5e is. It's such a great game engine, but they don't invest in the logic of it, the narrative of it, the breadth of what the mechanics can do. It's an amazing engine. It's an amazing car, and the designers aren't allowed to drive it the way that it can be driven, which is a shame. So anyway, I'm punching up a little bit. Don't mind me. I occasionally have a Bash Wizards day because I just think about, like, so much of the stuff that I do is out of spite for like the color mana system that I made. It's like they didn't bother bringing color mana into D&D. Like, it's such a natural 20 for them to do that. Like, I really think if they had leaned into MTG as a role-playing game using the 5e game engine, that they could have a different direction. I think they could have just a much stronger legacy between both products. There's just no appetite to do it, or rather they're afraid of doing it wrong, so they don't want to do it at all. Which I love, because I'm just like a little indie guy. Who the fuck cares about what I'm doing? I'm nobody in this equation, but I will argue that the color mana system that I built on, it's down below. It's free preview. You can check it out. But like, that's one example of like how good the 5e game engine really is. But Wizards doesn't really have that being the anchor for the entire role-playing game industry kind of means that you don't get to make bold moves and stay on top. And I think is kind of the attitude that they had. Like TSR drove itself into bankruptcy because it did so much cool stuff without enough return. You know, like it didn't have enough. They spread their resources too thin. Is basically what they did. I'm going to lighten that a little bit. And I think WotC is hyper aware of like how these things can go wrong. So it's a lot more cautious than indie creators like me need to be. This is just like for me, this is a hobby. You know, I don't have a boardroom or stock or anything crazy like that. It's just I'm just pushing pixels. You know, I'm making ideas, I'm pushing pixels, I'm putting books out. So my ability to create couture design ideas with no actual risk of failure. Like the book does well or doesn't do well. That's the extent of risk that I have. You know, I'm making this book instead of a different book. So I want to make sure that like the risk I have there is make sure that I really love what I'm working on, so that when I look back and realize, you know, that took X thousand hours to produce, I won't regret that I didn't spend those 1,000 hours somewhere else. You know, that's literally my biggest risk is, will I regret having spent the time that I spent on this book when I could have spent it on something else? And it's Eberron. I love Eberron. So no, this right here, right now, this is a great investment in my time. And when it's done, I'm not only going to be, you know, more connected to Eberron as a creator, but I'm going to be more confident in producing adventures as well as working in this. Like there's so many, like working in this format, there's so many collateral gains that I get as a result of taking on a challenge like this. This is a skill gain for me. Like this is a serious skill gain. Super worth it to me. Just makes each following book more powerful. So as long as it's something that I enjoy, that I'm willing to put the work through to see to completion, it's going to be a good book. At this point, I'm confident that I can create just good books. And it's just a matter of what do I focus my attention on. And I'm still, because I'm such a fanboy of D&D and MTG, I'm still focusing my energy on these IPs. And I don't have a reason to change until I'm inspired to do something different. So I'm really proud of that. Don't mind me, I'm just yammering about business again. Let's see, where are we at? Let's go here. These highlights are so fun. Billowing fabric sales and stuff. It's fun. It's fun. It's like the old still life paintings of fruit and a draped cloth. Like those oldies but goodies are valuable because it's just basic physics. It's like expressing the laws of material tenacity and gravity and air currents. It all just flows together when you deal with fabric and stuff like this. It's a lot of fun. Nope. Let's go to here. Like that. So that's not bad. That's pretty good fabric. It's a pretty good job. I can pat myself on the back with that one. Cheers to me. I gotta smooth that out because of the curve here. Not bad. Draw a fireball, playing tag with Grateful. I'm never gonna do that, dude. I'm never gonna do that. I felt you being there. Something in my head like a minute and a half ago said that dude that's interested in wolves is gonna come around and ask me to paint something. I can tell you this right now with no apology that during my stream I will paint what I want to paint. And if I want somebody's suggestion about what should be on my screen, I will ask you. So if the only reason you show up is for me to draw something and you hope that I'll eventually do it, I will not. And I am a waste of your time. I'm just trying to be honest about how I choose to spend my time on my stream with my art. So don't even bother. No. These are ridiculous questions, Young. They could earn you a ban, though. If I have to tell you no more than 3 or 4 times, I should probably just ban you. So take that into account. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I'm very serious about I don't take requests. If I'm stuck on something and I am looking for a solution, like how should I depict the symbol on this banner? That's something I've taken suggestions for. Like the suggestion to have this become a bunch of tangled vines and flowers. That was a fucking great idea. But I was actively looking for something. I was looking for a solution, and the suggestion was relevant. It wasn't make wolves. You know, there's nothing going on with wolves on this page. If I was drawing wolves on this page, and you're like, hey, a cool wolf design is whatever it is that you're talking about. That's a cool wolf design. I would actually go and look at what that reference is. And if I like the coloring and patterns on that wolf, I would paint that wolf. But we are not painting wolves, so it's irrelevant. Maybe that comes off as brusque. But cheers. It is what it is, my guy. Good. And ooh, it's 7:59. All right, it's about time for me to bounce. Yeah, it's time for me to bounce out of here, guys. This is my day. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning to continue with more artwork. I will finish up the banner of Shavrith. That's looking really good. But I can bend this symbol more now that we can see the topography of the actual banner. I can change this symbol to fit and meet the folds, like curve this up like this here needs to curve a little bit more. This needs to bend towards the camera a bit more. This is flat compared to the pattern that we, or the shape that we formed on this in this space. So that's what we'll do next time, and we'll probably knock that down pretty easily, and then we'll resolve the flute. But that's it for now. I'm going to be back tonight. We're going to be working on game design tonight for the Bastion campaign. That's going to be at probably about 5:30 Seattle time, which will be in about, what is that, like 9.5 hours? Yeah, that feels about right. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here for now, and I'll see you all in the future. Cheers.